Hi, everybody. This is day 1019. 1019 days since Richard vanished from the barracks there at Fort Bliss in El Paso, Texas. And I just want to say thank you so much from Team Find Richard Halliday, from me personally, for always taking the time out to listen to this case, to keep up with it, because it is. Cover ups are a mess, and this is absolutely a cover up, 100% a cover up from the beginning. And I'm going to explain to you how we have uncovered that it is a cover up, that we have 1,000 days, 1,000+ days of proof that it is a cover up. And we're getting to the bottom of it slowly but surely. I wish it could be really quick. I wish it could be tomorrow. And if Vanity Fair Veronica would do her job, it would already be accomplished. She would be a hero. But someone else is pulling her chains. Someone else is pulling her strings. She has a conflict of interest with her husband being like a border or immigration judge. And so, when we have corruption like that, when we have conflicts of interest like that, then we don't get answers. And we would have gotten answers from the very, very beginning if our CID, Criminal Investigative Division office there at Fort Bliss, would be doing their jobs, right? And we're looking, we're researching. We have to do the research because they're not doing their jobs. We know they're corrupt. We know they have conflict of interest. We know they're up to no good. We know that they've lied to us. And so because we can't trust them in doing their job, we have to go and look for the standard operating procedure that any criminal investigative division office would do in the case of a missing soldier, a murdered soldier, a Jack the Ripper murdered soldier. And also, do not forget, and it's hard for me to even remember because we've been fighting the narrative for so long, but Richard was a whistleblower. Okay, so he had a file before he ever went missing, and he was betrayed. We have gotten a lead that Special Agent Tavita Nusa was assigned to be his victim advocate when he reported to the CID the criminal activity within his unit, and Richard was betrayed, and so Tavita Nusa illegally exposed him, putting a target run on his back, and that's not all. Things happened with Tavita Nusa. He lost his badge. He was so compromised. He was criminal, absolutely criminal in this, that he leaked Richard's file. That's how he betrayed him to Leilani Hart, who in her home and even in her master bedroom, multiple members of her family are raping a 7-year-old child because she's in the child care business. Okay, she's in the child care business, not anymore. Thank God. I hope not anymore. And there was another child, 3 years old there. And we're trying to get to the bottom of all of this, why there is more protection. Why is there more protection for what Tavita Nusa did, what Leilani Hart did, what her family members did, than to a whistleblowing, trying to be a good citizen, trying to be a good soldier, Richard Halliday? Why is there more protection and cover up for these criminals? And we absolutely know that there is a conflict of interest right with Tavita Nusa and Leilani Hart, because Leilani Hart's son, First Lieutenant Dallas Hart, who is no more in the military. It seems like everyone in this case gets out of the military or is not in El Paso anymore. This is a huge cover-up. And they should bring everyone back to El Paso, back to the unit. They should bring people that are retired back on active service to get to the bottom of this. If they were really interested in protecting our service members, because everything they do in Richard's case is a reflection of what they will do for all of our service members, each and every one of our service members. It's the one and the many, right? It's the one and the many. The Trinity. The Trinity is the only thing that answers the one and the many. And Richard is the case that all these other service members are watching, paying attention, because they know, when First Sergeant J. Pollan wrote on a 15-6 article, because in Richard's unit, they were saying, oh, it's because of all these deployments. They were under major pressure. That's why all this happened. And he was like, this is BS. This is BS. And there was, social media chat back and forth. And he goes, is Halliday's life worth more than mine? I mean, to me, that is almost an admission that Richard was trying to expose what they were doing in that criminality in the unit, and that puts him as a suspect of the murderer of Richard Halliday, or at least the cover-up of Richard Halliday. Because what was he saying there? And he put that out for every service member to read. And he's the first sergeant. Now, he wasn't he was retired when Richard went missing, but he was a contract worker. He was absolutely there in El Paso. He was absolutely there with a conflict of interest with himself. With him, he had a good friendship with a CID Special Agent Ron Steig. Right there in that very small office, not very many special agents in that office there on Fort Bliss. And yet, 2 conflicts of interest just right there in that unit with First Lieutenant Dallas Hart and First Sergeant Jay Pollan. And in front of our eyes, Soto was allowed to cover for Hemasochil. In front of our eyes, in front of Lieutenant General Donna Martin, who was in charge of the CID at the time, in front of Lieutenant General Sean Bernabe, in front of the FBI, he was allowed to cover up for his CID office, because she had, in that meeting, the whole problem with Hemasochil is we said she had leaks from the CID, and the FBI let him investigate his own office. And of course, he didn't investigate, he covered up. And the FBI allowed it. And we're talking about the ATF being there, which is alcohol, tobacco, firearms, and explosives. They're that agency absolutely being there told us that weapons are involved, firearms are involved in this case. And Soto didn't, I don't believe that he stopped there. He absolutely covered up for Tavita Nusa, because he never told us that Tavita Nusa was Richard's victim advocate, that Richard had contacted that very office that Soto was the leader of to make complaints about criminal activity in his unit. So Richard had a file before he went missing. And he was severely retaliated against constantly before he went missing and even after, because they didn't have his six. They didn't follow protocol. They did not follow what they're supposed to do. And I want to talk about a couple things. It doesn't stop there, because Tavita Nusa is a huge suspect in this whole case. Jay Paulin is a huge suspect in this whole case, because they and first Lieutenant Dallas Hart, who is no longer in the military, he is also a huge suspect in this case. Amongst others. And what does that mean? I mean, we believe at this point with our leads that Richard was brutally murdered, like a Jack the Ripper style murder. Cut into pieces. And to take his remains and divide it, to cut it into more pieces and divide it, and to put it at different locations, is also huge criminal, because you're tampering with the evidence, right? You're tampering with the remains. So, you have to have the lethal injection on the table when you comprehend the magnitude of this brutal crime against a whistleblower. And what do the people that cover up for it, that we have entrusted to have certain duties, and we pay for them, and we give them everything, and we have 44 four-star generals that don't click heels together, they allow this criminal activity. You call them betrayers, right? You call them, what would you call 44 four-star generals that are serving foreign and domestic enemies instead of defending the Constitution, and they betray a service member that they are obligated to care for? Morally, they should be obligated, they should care for him, but also that's their duty as a four-star general, to make sure that our military is ready. And they're gearing up for war right now. They're gearing up for war. It's an election year, and they're going to try to pull a fast one, and I don't think they can pull another COVID. So they're going to, this is my personal opinion from what my sources are telling me, that they're gearing up for war. And of course they are. Of course they are. And they're gearing up for war with an unready military. Not even that. They're gearing up to go to war with a criminal syndicate in leadership position, which puts every one of our volunteer sons and daughters at huge risk. Huge risk. Because they don't fulfill their duties and they don't fulfill their obligations, and yet they're going to go to war, and they're not going to win the war. They're just going there to have a war, to break things and to kill things, and it doesn't matter if it's their things or their service members. That's my opinion. And so Soto, with his breach of that office of security, their conflict of interest, they have more loyalty to whatever criminal syndicate they're serving, to their friendships than they do to the Constitution of the United States, to their obligations, to their duty. Absolutely, because he proved it over and over and over again. And the big elephant in the room, well, we found out yesterday some things that are really troubling. That is just another amongst 1,000 irregularities, another irregularity that is huge, and it's called the Yellow Interpol. The Yellow Interpol. So we have Tavita Nusa, who, is assigned to Richard when Richard is reporting criminal activity in his unit, and he meets a few days later, he meets with Tavita, and Tavita absolutely betrays him, illegally exposes him, leaks out we know this as a hard fact, that he leaked out Richard's file to Leilani Hart. That's a hard fact. And we're finding out more hard facts. We know that he lost his badge. That's a hard fact. So why did he lose his badge? That's a big deal for a special agent to lose his badge. To lose your license to do the job that you've trained for. That's what that means. So, you can't be a doctor or you can't be a lawyer. You get disbarred. It's kind of like being disbarred. So you've trained to do this, and now they're going to take it away. And so why? Why did they do that? It was more than just not acting, becoming of a CID special agent or something like that. And we are finding out, and I'll be talking more about that tomorrow, with more information as we confirm the things that we know, what were happening to Tavita during this whole thing. And this is directly connected to the disappearance of our son, the murder of our son. Okay, the murder of our son. Not just a murder of passion, but a Jack the Ripper planned gang type. Maybe it's some kind of occult group or just criminal syndicate group. And then yesterday I mentioned that we have information now that a cartel operative is part of this group. Which, and Bill Hicks with all of this information, because don't think for a minute that he doesn't know this information with this case and why the media is not all over this case. We saw that yesterday with our intelligence, or what should I say, the police officer. Should I say police officer? Law enforcement officer that was afraid. Here he is, part of the agency, and yet he's afraid to even tip in Richard's name. He's afraid of his own agency. You see, that should scream volumes to all of us. That, hey, that missing soldier that I visited, I wonder what's up with that. And he's afraid because that might put bells and whistles in the air. And do I blame him? I don't blame him. I'm just telling you that's how corrupt our agencies are, that we can have these beautiful law enforcement officers that are, 6'8", strong, big guy, and he's afraid. That speaks volumes. It speaks volumes. So, and Tavita Nusa was also afraid of the system, which he should be, because he was up to no good. And so, so I'll talk about that more tomorrow when I get confirmation on the information that we received. Information that we're uncovering, because, like this picture of Area 244, Kamal Jabbar, I hope I say it the right way, Jabbar. It's a mock Afghanistan village there on Fort Bliss. And remember that Lieutenant General Sean Bernabe was looking for Richard's remains there, searching for Richard's remains there, Christmas 2020. Christmas 2020. Okay. And this whole time line is coming together. Unbelievable. It's just all coming together. And here I've been picking on, I shouldn't even say I've been picking on, I have been telling you that our 44 four-star generals and admirals are up to no good, that they are serving foreign and domestic enemies rather than defending our Constitution, doing their duty and meeting their obligations. And there needs to be a retrenching. And those that do nasty things, like Donna Martin, she gets an extra star, like Sean Bernabe, an extra star, and they committed crimes against humanity. That's just the tip of the iceberg. Same thing with McConville. He gets to retire. What are you talking about? He gets to retire after he commits crimes against humanity and betrays the very people that he is supposed to secure, that he's supposed to defend. It's a huge betrayal. It's a huge upside down world. And now I want to say who is another powerful person in this, and that's Governor Greg Abbott. And so we've been drafting, trying to put together a letter for our moms of missing, murdered, and maligned soldiers, so that we can share it out everywhere. But this one, is really from us, and we're going to ask everyone to share it, just like the media letter. The media letter to eoclass@irs.gov about how the media, they claim to be non-biased, because that way they can get tax-free status, but yet they're very biased. They are political attack dogs, and we have proof of that. We have experienced that. And yet they get tax-free status. And so if El Paso Matters, if KTIP, if you live in that area and and maybe it's a different news agency that has the same problem, then this is how you can get their tax-free number. And I put out their El Paso Matters tax-free number, and you can write the IRS at eoclass@irs.gov and say, look, it's okay to be biased, but it's not okay to be biased and get tax-free status. This media agency is a political attack dog. They are very biased, and they need to have their tax exempt status taken from them, so people will know that they are biased. And we need to give the tax exempt status to a different media platform that will be non-biased and will cover all the different stories that have to do with El Paso, which is our son's case. And there is a story behind the K-tip, Miss Korcherga with Leilani Hart, with a lawyer, that is very interesting. That is part of this cover-up of Richard's case. Not just the cover-up, but an attempt to interfere in the case and also intimidate and interfere with a witness to our case, to harm a witness, really threaten them, scare them, intimidate them, call it what you may, even try to pin a false crime on them. And, that's not okay. That's not okay. And we're going to explain to you some of the reasons behind that as we get everything verified. But at this point, with this yellow Interpol information, with the information that we're getting of the conflict of interest and the CID, the whistleblower status of Richard that we have to keep saying. Richard was a whistleblower, and he went to the CID, and the CID never told us that they assigned Tavita Nusa as his witness, his victim advocate, and met with Richard. We have that date as about the 23rd of June 2020 to discuss what concerns Richard had in his unit. And you see, this is after Richard had just suffered through so much retaliation, and he didn't back down. He didn't back down and bow to the hat, which destroys. They go after the family, right? He didn't do that because he has a faith. He has a faith that's a fear of God. The fear of not having God on his side. People say, what do you mean fear of God? Look, we have that all the time with our friendships, right? That we will do all kinds of things to please our friendships, maybe our family members or whatever, so that they will like us, right? So that they wouldn't think ill of us. We couldn't stand it if they thought ill of us, that we weren't part of the group. Well, that's how we feel. We don't want God to not let us be part of his group. We want to be part of his world, his kingdom. We can't stand it if he thinks ill of us. And to turn our back on a 7-year-old that is getting raped by a multitude, continuously raped by a multitude, multiple people in the Hart family and the Hart master bedroom. I mean, what is Leilani thinking? She's not thinking that about God and being shunned from God's kingdom. and God looking down on her and saying, you evil, evil servant. You spineless woman that lets your family do this, waits almost 2 years before reporting, and more things are going on because of the pornography. Yeah, she's not worried about God at all. But see, that's not our family. That's not Richard. We are afraid of God more so than we are of any agency. And these agencies are, why would you be afraid of them? Because 6 ways to Sunday, they are going to get back with you. Yeah. They're evil. Yeah. But they're going to lose. Because God is no buttercup. They're going to lose because they live on lies, and the lies cannot be sustained. People are going to want the truth. People are going to want a good life, a better life. They don't want an evil life. The Spirit of God will just, Pentecost is coming, right? Pentecost is coming. And I hear so many times, oh, people are just evil. They just want evil. I don't believe that. Because I believe in the Trinity. I believe in Pentecost. I believe in the power of the Spirit of God. The indwelling Spirit of God. The temple of the Holy Spirit. I believe in that. And so I believe I'm on the winning side no matter what happens to me. I'm on the winning side if I don't burn my bridge with God. And it seems that Governor Abbott is doing just that. And maybe we need to help him out. Maybe we need to send him this letter and say, hold on there. Check yourself. This is what you're supposed to be doing. And I have this draft letter, and you can tell me what you think. But, it's like, we're writing you today on behalf of our soldier, our whistleblower, Richard Halliday, our son, who has been missing for over 1,019 days since July 23rd, 2020, from Fort Bliss, Texas. I should say from the barracks on Fort Bliss in Texas. And Richard was a dedicated soldier who reported criminal activity in his unit. I need to say he was a distinguished honor graduate from basic training in AIT, and who reported criminal activity in his unit to the Criminal Investigative Division there. That was totally compromised, right? Of the United States Army. And he also made complaints to the Child Protective Services. We can't forget that. And prior to his disappearance, despite his efforts to do the right thing, Richard Halliday has not been seen since he went missing from Fort Bliss, and partial remains believed to be his were found in 2020 in multiple locations. Red Rio Range Training Area in New Mexico, kilometer 29 on the Juarez Porvenir Highway. I'm saying that wrong. Highway in Mexico, and the training area 244 on Fort Bliss in Texas. And as the governor of Texas, it is your duty to ensure the safety and well-being of all Texans, including those who serve in our military. And we implore you to use your influence and authority that God has given you, right? God has given him this authority to demand a thorough investigation into the disappearance and death of Richard Halliday. The circumstances surrounding his case, including allegations of cover-up and misconduct, are deeply troubling. And I mean, the irregularities are endless, and they demand your attention. And furthermore, I urge you to work with the appropriate authorities to ensure who he has put in place. He put Bill Hicks in place there. I urge you to work with the appropriate authorities to ensure that justice is served and that Richard Halliday's family receives the security, the support, and the assistance that they need during this difficult time. And we deserve answers about what happened to our loved one. And we have the right to know what happened. And we should not have to suffer through this pain, the uncertainty of the disappearance without the support of their government and their fellow Texans. And I hope that you will take this plea seriously and use your position and power to advocate for the safety and well-being of all Texans, including those who serve our country. And I look forward to your response and action in this matter. And I'm going to put this out as sincerely, right? Sincerely. But I want to put this out as a formatted letter for everyone to be able to send to him, not just us, because we've already sent him a letter and it's crickets. Maybe if a multitude of people send him a letter like this, we will get some responses. We will get some kind of action, because this is an election year. Okay, and they have to be driven, right? Isn't that what Lieutenant General Sean Bernabe says? We have to be driven to do the right thing. We, in our stars and stripes and tall buildings and in our air condition with our big staffs and all of our security, we have forgotten our obligations. We have forgotten our oaths and our duty. And so we have to be driven like cattle to do the right thing. This is, and he said it right on the dot. That's exactly right. And it is the exposure of the failures. And I really think that we need to save Greg Abbott from burning his bridge with God, right? Making a huge mistake. Selling himself out. And I'm serious about having that in there with the findings of Richard, because another letter that we are putting out is a FOIA to get every designation and the dates of those designations of the status of Richard. Because when was he designated officially AWOL? When did they even report him missing? Right? Because they didn't contact us. They didn't follow their protocols, what they should have done, right? I think I was writing some notes. Yeah, here, this is what they should have done, what they should be doing now in Delta Battery 143 and upwards at Fort Bliss. Day 1, when Richard failed to report for duty, his unit should initiate a search for him immediately, right? And attempt to call him via his phone, via email, social media, whatever. The unit notifies their chain of command and the CID of Halliday's absence. That's day 1. Day 2, the search for Halliday expands to the local area, including hotels, hospitals, public transportation hubs. The unit and CID interview Halliday's known associates, his unit members, his family members, This is day 2. And anyone who may have had contact with him recently. And the unit provides support to Halliday's family and keeps them informed on the ongoing search. That's day 2. They never contacted us. When was he even designated to be AWOL? Day 3 and 4, the CID and other law enforcement agencies work together to get additional information and analyze any forensic evidence. The unit conducts a more thorough search of the barracks and surrounding area, including any vehicles or equipment Halliday may have had access to. The unit and CID continue to conduct interviews and gather information from potential witnesses. This is day 3 and 4. And you have to remember that the unit provides support to Halliday's family and keeps them informed on the ongoing search. And day 5 and 7, 5 through 7, the unit and the CID consider issuing an Interpol on 5 and 7. The Interpol for Richard didn't come out until, let's say, they were issuing it on day September 2nd, 2020. September 2nd. He went missing July 23rd, 2020. He failed to report on July 24, 2020. And they don't even contact Interpol until the 2nd of 2020. And then it doesn't even show up. There's this gap of 20 days. Doesn't even show up as a yellow Interpol until the 22nd. The 22nd of September? Now, we're trying to get the information that maybe it went up on the 2nd of September, but even if it was, let's say it did go up on the 2nd of September. You're talking a breach of protocol on so many different levels right from the very beginning. They had no intention of finding Richard, and I think they already had found Richard. Okay? Because if you find something already, then you're not looking for it anymore, right? So the unit provides regular updates to the Halliday family and supporters and supports them in any way possible. The search for Halliday continues with increased urgency. This is day 5 through 7. And beyond day 7, the search for Halliday continues until he is located or additional evidence leads to the determination of his fate. And so we have information because of the leads that we have of these autopsies, of this death certificate, that we have put together a timeline. And the timeline shows that July 28th, August 5th, remains were found at Red Rio Range, and that on August 7th, they were then officially Richard Halliday's remains. Now we need answers to those leads, because it's saying our leads, our sources are saying that August 7th, as early as August 7th, 2020. So he fails to report July 24th, and August 7th, they already have confirmation that the remains found in July 28th and August 5th, because they were partial remains, because Jack the Ripper, that they were Richard's remains. And where is the confirmation of his status? See, that's why it's so important for us to know what the status is and what the dates were for Richard. Now, will they lie to us? That's a possibility. We've had lie after lie after, but they cannot sustain the lies. Okay, they can't. So, we're transparent, which gives them an edge, right? Because they're not transparent. But, we want to live in the light. We want to tell everybody out there what's going on, because they have volunteer sons and daughters. They have those sons and daughters that might be thinking about joining the military. They're concerned citizens paying taxes to support our military, to support our agencies. They need to know what's happening here. We all need to know what's happening here. And like I said, I believe in the Trinity. I believe in the Holy Spirit, and I believe in Pentecost. And I believe that some of these people in these agencies, some of these people that are in the military, that they will weigh what's at risk here. And they will be divided in those that want to do the right thing and those that want to do the criminal thing. You see, there's a Bible study out there about sin. And sin, the word sin, is one word in English, right? But in Greek, it's two words, harmatia and antinomian. So harmatia is, because we're all sinners, right? We know that. We know we all fall short. But harmatia is when we're always trying. We're trying to hit the mark. We're trying to, like you're playing darts and you're trying to hit that center. But an antinomian is one that tries to take that dart and purposely miss it. It might maybe harm somebody else with it. They purposely try to do the wrong thing. They purposely try to rape children in a home that's supposed to be caring for those children, and even in a master bedroom, and multiple times. That's antinomian sin. Okay, that is a sin against God. So it's a very, once you know that, I think you're like, okay, I got to keep trying. And you don't give up because you're always trying. And so and it empowers you because you know that others purposely want to do the wrong thing. And that's judged differently. Absolutely judged differently. And here, all these irregularities in Richard's case, it's antinomian. These are people that on purpose want to let Jack the Rippers, it's like Vanity Fair Veronica. She wants everybody to play the games in the Vanity Fair, right? And if you don't, then, well, you're nobody. She leaves you hanging. You can die then. You can die as a soldier. She didn't care. You can have a Jack the Ripper out there. You can have a family. raping a 7-year-old. She's not going to look into it. She's not going to have a hearing. She's not going to, because, her dedication, her loyalty is to the Vanity Fair, to the criminal syndicate. And it's a criminal syndicate. It's so much a criminal syndicate that the security on Fort Bliss has been breached, so much so that we have cartel operatives given the open door into our military installations, and to have a very intimate relationship with people that are supposed to be caring in the most sensitive way, the welfare of our service members and their families. And yeah, I can't, it's so bad, y'all. The breach on Fort Bliss is so bad. And the corruption in our agencies are so bad, because they've been there so long that they have developed these friendships. And in the CID, I think that little office is a very clear indication of what's going on in all the different agencies. They have their friends, and they are loyal to their friends. They don't want their friends to be mad at them. They don't want their friends to not include them in their circles. And here comes Richard reporting their criminal activities. And the leadership has its own little circle, has its own little criminal syndicate. And so they're green lighting, with their obsession in serving these foreign and domestic ideologies and enemies of the United States. They greenlight even more crime and the lack of security on Fort Bliss, the major crimes in the barracks, major crimes. And the retaliation then is greenlit. And Richard, he didn't stand a chance. He was betrayed on every front. Nobody had his six. And, it's just so clear. And if this is true, what our lead says, which, I really believe more than the CID, I really believe more than Lieutenant General Sean Bernabe, who never ever told us that our son was a whistleblower, that Tavita Nusa was assigned as his victim advocate, that they never told us that Richard's whistleblower status was illegally exposed and a target was put on his back. They never told us. And this is something that makes us question, what else are they derelict in? What else are they negligent in? And we believe that it is in the designation of his status. Because Richard was a yellow Interpol, and if they were serious about finding him, if they were serious that he was out there alive, he would be a red Interpol. Because that's how they find people, is a red Interpol. That is a warrant for his arrest wherever. And they'll say, but Mrs. Halliday, you didn't want him to be a deserter. Well, that's true because he's not. But we didn't get that status changed until the 25th of November, 2020. Okay? The 25th, it was Thanksgiving Day, the 25th of November, 2020, we got his status as CONUS DES-1 missing soldier, the very first one under the Vanessa Guillen absent soldier flowchart. That happened on the 25th of November, 2020. And what I know of the military, after 30 days, you are a deserter and there is an arrest warrant, a federal arrest warrant put out for you, and you go red Interpol. But there is no red Interpol. It's never been a red Interpol. So what should have happened is on the 25th of November or the 26th, it should have went from red to yellow. But there's no red to yellow. So what was his designation? What was it officially? Were they lying to us, which is so criminal? If they did not designate Richard as a deserter and they were lying to us saying that he was, because when my husband called, they said, your son is a deserter. Where was the federal warrant out for his arrest? Where was his red Interpol? Because on this, it's day 3 to 4, right? Day 3 to 4. Let me look at that again. Oh, I think it's down lower here on my notes. When they want to put in the Interpol. Yeah. Day 5 through 7, the unit and CID consider issuing an Interpol. So they could have absolutely put in a yellow Interpol then on day 30, changed it to red, issue a federal warrant out for his arrest, and then on the 25th of November, change it to a yellow because he is now missing. But see, that just did not happen. It just didn't happen. Everything they claimed to us didn't happen in reality. And so when we received the leads that Richard was found, his remains, partial remains, not his full remains, just part of him, was found at Red Rio Range, and all these other different events, all these other different irregularities were in our minds. It was not absurd for us to entertain the truth of the lead. It's not absurd. It makes perfect sense then. If they have found parts of Richard in July 28th, 2020, just 4 days after he vanished, it makes perfect sense why they wouldn't label him AWOL or deserter, or they wouldn't label him. They wouldn't designate him that. What they would designate him as is died while missing. Died while missing because he went missing and they don't have his total remains, right? But they have evidence, maybe a confession, that he is indeed deceased, that he was murdered. And then they would designate him as homicide being investigated. And wow, can you imagine how that would have rattled things right after they announced that the chopped up, bludgeoned remains of Vanessa Guillen was Vanessa Guillen that they found buried in a foxhole with lime on it after being burnt and concrete and yeah, and animals digging it up. Can you imagine? And it absolutely has to do with that because this is the same leadership. Eflin was the same leadership, General Eflin, right? All of those, they were the same leadership. Fort Hood, Fort Bliss, they're Siamese sisters. Siamese twin sisters, right? Just like El Paso with Juarez, Mexico. And then we get this autopsy that is right there in August, and we're like, oh, wow, that fits. But then, oh, more remains. And the autopsy date fits the more remains because those are Mexican remains. And this is a Mexican autopsy report. What are the chances of that? And the same date, the remains being found in September and the autopsy beginning of October. And then you have Dollar General Man, you have the father-in-law of Lieutenant Colonel Bugado in the G3 of the 32nd AgCom walking into a Dollar General saying, you know, I'm with the FBI, and the FBI, they were looking for Richard's remains in Mexico, and they found him. And shh, he's dead, but it's a secret. It's a secret. I mean, that we're not insane. We can put together these pieces, and they're fitting. And then the third autopsy is very interesting. The findings coming out the beginning of 2021, and we have the memory of that lead calling us and saying, "Hey, did you know that Lieutenant General Sean Bernabe is looking for Richard in this training area, Kamal Jabbar, this Afghanistan, mock Afghanistan, where, and it makes sense now, because let me put up that picture, because it totally makes sense to me, the phone call that I got. So here it is. Here's the picture, right? And I was told they leave equipment out here, right? Now that makes sense because these are like, what are those called? The containers, right? These shipping containers. That's what they made this mock village. And so I was told that Christmas 2020. And I've been trying to, with Rob, find a picture of this mock Afghanistan training village right there on Fort Bliss. And this autopsy and information coming in with the autopsy says the area is 244 on Fort Bliss, training area 244. And I put it in, and what is it? The mock Afghanistan village, Kamal Jabbar. Now, what are the chances of that? What are the chances? So we've been lied to and lied to and lied to. And what do we get? Nothing from the media. Nothing, no answers, no answers, no answers. Shh, shh, shh. It's like Nadal Bayim is the 5-star general. Shh, shh. And everybody's listening. Everybody's obeying his order to shh. Everything's quiet. And he is just some guy walking into, and I'm not saying he's a 5-star general. That was just me saying, look, they're listening to whoever is pulling their strings to tell them that they cannot mention Richard Halliday, that they can't even type Richard's Halliday in their devices to see what's happening with the quote unquote first CONUS Deaths One Missing Soldier under the new absent soldier flowchart. No, because they know something else happened. And it really seems that that we're not crazy. There are too many irregularities here. None of the protocol was followed. None of the standard operating procedures were followed. None of the standard operating procedures for the barracks was followed. You have a lot of very mad, very angry unit members. Why? Because they had some kind of long-standing criminal syndicate going on there at Fort Bliss. They had a sweet deal going, and all of a sudden this kid from Ireland comes in, this American citizen, and says, hey, we're not supposed to be criminal here. We're supposed to be defending the Constitution of the United States. I didn't join the military to be involved in raping 7-year-old children. I didn't join the military to participate in child porn and the selling, the production of it, the marketing of it, the broadcasting of it. I didn't join the military to spend my money on whores and blow. That's not why I joined the military. I didn't join the military to be a bully. I went in there to be mentored, to learn how to defend the Constitution, to build my character, to get an education. All the pretty things, and I need to really write it. I need to write the bullet list of everything a recruiter says to these young people. How just swell it's going to be in the military. How you are joining a family. How they've got your six. How, you have to work hard, but you're going to be trained and you're going to know how to do something when you get out. All these things that they promise you, these recruiters, especially they go to 18-year-olds, which I think is absolutely criminal, that they go to the high schools. And I think, we have a petition. I don't even know if the petition is still there. We downloaded that, but that is such an important petition, and we need to get on it again, because no recruiter should be able to come near a high school, an 18-year-old. Absolutely no way. So, no, the Interpol, the whole procedures at the beginning, the whole Tavita Nusa should be arrested. And maybe he thought that he would be. Because tomorrow you're going to find out that some of those things happened. It seems like he thought he was going to be arrested. Who covered up for him? Did he make a deal? Did he make a sweet little plea deal there? What's going on? And other things too. So with that, I'm going to, am I forgetting things? The one other thing that I really have been putting on here again is the connection with Mexico, because I think it's it's really important to know about these maps, and I have it on these maps here going through St. Teresa, right? St. Teresa and these orphanages and everything. And this goes to the two Mormon temples. And why is that important? Because absolutely the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is part of this. Absolutely. Okay? Might not be in an evil way, but we have members of this who are suspects that are members of the Mormon Church, or used to be, or whatever. We don't know the circumstances, and we've called out for help, and it's been silence. And the thing is we have these leads, more than one lead, that Richard's remains were found in September of 2020 in Mexico, in uniform, kilometer 29, not quite kilometer 29. We got the coordinates. And that, do we have it all out there, the officials, announcing it? No. But how did they get through that border crossing? Were they in, some kind of security or policing or law enforcement? Did they have a badge? Because Soto told me he could go anywhere. He was essential, and I was saying all people are essential. The garbage man is essential. The roofer is essential. The plumber is essential. The small business owner that owns a gift shop is essential. And I made that very clear. But he bragged to me that he could go over. And if you also, for religious purposes, it was announced that to go to temple, you can also be essential, that you can also get a pass through the border. And so this is just the maps of the area where the remains, and also it's interesting that there's 2 orphanages and a child shelter. What are they doing? And that horses are involved. And remember the blue truck? That's the color of my stapler here, the blue truck with the shaved handles. What are they doing? What was Richard reporting? And who's pulling the chains? Who's leading this? And why are so many people afraid that they will let this continue? That they will let this kind, our volunteer sons and daughters that join, that become soldiers, to be brutally murdered, and they allow the Jack the Rippers to walk around. They allow the rapists to walk around. They allow the drug dealers to walk around. They allow the people that are pulling the chains to walk around. There's no accountability at all. And we are giving up the good life. Because life is so much better when there's not drug dealers and people dying of fentanyl. Life is so much better when we can serve our country in the military without fear of losing our own life from our leadership. Life is so much better when our law enforcement agencies are doing their job. Life is so much better when we can honestly honestly count on our leadership to do their duty and honor their oaths. We can do other things. We can be so much more productive in the things that we're called to do if we're not in that business. We're giving up the good life, letting these people turn our daughters into victims, turning our sons into victims, and hypnotizing them and psychologically damaging them. We have so much PTSD. We have the training to suicide. We have so many suicides. We had just this last week 2 suicides back to back on Fort Bliss in the barracks. And the media is just allowing that to happen. And we're allowing our media to be biased under the umbrella of we are tax exempt, we're non-biased. And that's not right. And we're allowing Governor Greg Abbott, who's very, very powerful, to stumble. And I know that he's in a wheelchair, but he's stumbling. He's stumbling. And he's up for a re-election, and he's making a lot of mistakes. A lot of mistakes. And he's not answering our letters, so we need to write him more letters. Yeah. Especially during this time where the border is about to be totally breached, and we're going to have so many more children unaccounted for minors coming over, with Jack the Rippers walking around, with rapists walking around, with child porn producers eyeing our children and eyeing all children. And it gets worse because somehow the mortuary affairs is involved in this. Of course they are, because we have these autopsies, we have these remains, and we need answers. From all of them. We need a real investigation. And I'm sorry, when I don't believe the institutions, that I want a letter. I want a letter. I want it in writing. I want it with a stamp. I really want it notarized. I want it notarized. The notary that held Leilani Hart's CID report, where she, I guess she had enough, I don't know, but she's reporting her family members raping the 7-year-old. She's reporting her first lieutenant's son in uniform having an affair with his incestuous relationship with his brother while he's in uniform. That's illegal. And where are the arrests for that? And there's more. There's all this cover-up for it. And then we have now the yellow Interpol, which is really the elephant in the room. So this is so big, and it's even bigger than what I've been telling you. And so I just want to say thank you so much for sticking with this, so that we can get answers on these autopsy reports, on these body parts findings, remains. Where did they go? Why haven't they reported them? And would they be that evil to keep it a secret? Because we have Dollar General man Nadal Baim telling the cashier to keep it a secret. We have it on video. Why is it a secret that you find the remains of our son? Is the FBI hiding the remains of our son? Was he designated died while missing? And then the designation changed to homicide. How much can they fiddle with the paperwork? How much can they illegally get away with? And yet, how much can they not get away with, and they have to legally cover themselves? Because where is his desertion status on paper? We'd like it all that on paper. And when we don't get it on paper, then that speaks volumes too, right? Because if they had that all on paper, and that's what we're asking for, then, you know, they should have given it to us a long time ago according to their SOPs. And, you know, then are they just that sloppy? Because they're sloppy. And that means they're sloppy with the lives of our volunteer sons and daughters. And they want to go to war. They're not ready. There's no readiness. It's yeah. Thank you for comments. Thank you, Danielle. Thank you, Grace. Thank you, Daisy. God bless you always. Thank you for that. And God bless you too. And Deliris, thank you so much. And I know they are rebuilding one of the shelters in that area. Thank you so much. That's interesting. That's interesting. Because we absolutely will never forget our Christmas 2020 when they told us that they were looking. Did you know that? He was a major general at the time. Major General Sean Bernabe is looking for the remains of your son there? No, we didn't know that. They didn't inform us. They've never informed us. Even after not informing us that our son was missing, they didn't inform us. And we had, you know, CAO at that time, a liaison. They didn't inform us. And that speaks volumes. So I'm going to put up that letter. I might tweak it a little bit. Put up that letter and ask how many of you would like to send Greg Abbott that letter with us. And also, don't forget about the IRS with the media, because the media, they have just acted appalling during this time, and criminal, because if they are interfering with a criminal case like this and also messing with the witnesses, you know, they just can't be allowed to get away with that, because our whole country is going to fall apart. We won't have any justice, and a land without justice is just a criminal syndicate. So we're working on that. We're working on the justice part. We're working on the legal front now. And we're trying to get to the bottom of where our son is. And it's just, we appreciate your prayers. We really do. And I will be back tomorrow, God willing. I'll be back. And with all kinds of new information. It's just coming in. I just have so much right here. And as you can see, every night it's new information. And I'm not telling you about the canine situation. I'm not telling you about the MP guard mount situation. I'm not talking enough about all of these things to remind you of what we've been through. So if you can go through Find Richard Halliday and find those really important pieces of information and share them, keep sharing them and help us do that, we really appreciate it. Thank you so much, God willing, and I will be back tomorrow. Bye-bye.